Yo, what is good, Jets Nation? Welcome back to another Jets Media live stream. And today we got a special guest, the film junkie himself, Joe from Jets X Factor. What's going on, Joe? How you doing today, man?
Doing well. Recovering a little bit, both in my voice from the game right now, which is a little bit sketchy, and then diving into the film a little bit, diving into some of these storylines, and really trying to break the game down because Richie, like when you and I are there, a little bit more disappointing, really hits you hard. But then once you get a couple days to kind of digest and really figure out what happened, maybe you can start to feel a little bit better. Maybe you can start to feel a little bit worse. So I'm diving into to see where I'm at right now.
Yeah, exactly. And as you guys know, I was at the game. Joe was at the game. We set up the stream last week. And then I get to the hotel. I come out of the elevator. All of a sudden, I see Joe out of the elevator. I'm like, yo, what are the odds of that? Like, what's good?
Yeah.
So that was pretty dope. So, Joe, I'm assuming every single Jets fan knows who you are and knows about Jets X Factor. So just in case for the audience that does not know who you are, what you guys do at Jets X Factor, you want us to introduce yourself and what you guys do over there?
Yeah, we just started probably 16 to 18 months ago. And we are a deeply analytical website, also tied in with a lot of film. You have Nanya, who puts out like 5 articles a day on film stuff, and then I do film breakdowns upon film breakdowns. Everybody in the off season, every single game, you're gonna have probably a 2-3 hour review and coverages and what went wrong and techniques and protections and run plays and who messed up what block. And they'll be getting a ton of that stuff from the website. And then we also have Sabo and a bunch of other writers. So it's really analytical, film-based website to really teach people really what's going on instead of kind of just talking about the storylines and not really diving deep into what actually happened. So.
Yeah, make sure you guys check out Jets X Factor down below in the description. Their YouTube channel, Joe's Twitter account, and their website is indeed down below. So make sure you guys check that out. So with that being said, let's get right into this, Joe. First, before we get into the game, we got some breaking news from the New York Jets, some roster moves. And unfortunately, we have to make these moves simply because we are getting banged up with injuries. Our punter, why don't you show that shirt you're wearing? Our lovely guy, Braden Mann, the man, myth, and legend, had to go down with an injury, and we bring in a veteran punter, and then rookie linebacker Jamian Sherwood sprained his ankle. So we're getting injured all over the place, and if we were going to go over all the injuries, we might as well. Mekhi Becton out for 4 to 6 weeks with a knee. LaMarcus Joyner out for the season. Blake Cashman's banged up. Wow, this is really depressing even talking about this. So the people that we did bring in is, here we go. That we signed veteran linebacker B.J. Goodson and veteran punter, Super Bowl champion, 15-year veteran, Thomas Morstead. So what's your initial reaction to the Jets bringing in these two guys?
Yeah, with Morstead, I know a lot of people wanted the kicker turned punter last game who was knocking. Well, the first kick he had was or the first punt he had was like 65 yards or 63 yards, something crazy. But you actually go and watch those kicks. A lot of them went out of bounds, or those punts, a lot of them went out of bounds. On line drives, and obviously people mainly just think distance with punts, but there's a lot about hang time too. I didn't really have a lot of hang time, and obviously, and with that being said, you don't want one guy doing both duties. If he goes down in a game, you could be screwed, to be frank. So to bring in a punter who's been there, done that, it's an important piece to the team. It's a necessary piece. So wasn't shocked. Now, did I have a preference of somebody else? Am I scouring the punter market? At all times? No, not really. And then B.J. Goodson, from the little I've heard about him, he was pretty effective for the Browns last year. Pretty good in coverage. I think he's like 28, 29 years old. And listen, even before the Jared Davis injury and the Sherwood injury, they were super thin at that position. And now with Cashman too. I don't know if you mentioned that. You might have 3 big injuries to the linebacking core. They have nobody, at that position right now, with a bunch of backups. Now they're bringing in Noah Dawkins for a workout, a guy that is cut. So they really don't have anybody past, a Mosley and a Hamza who are really supposed to be there. So to get a veteran in there who has played a good amount of snaps through his 5-6 year career, I believe it is, was necessary. Whether it be Dawkins. Or the linebacker's name, who I'm blanking on right now, number 43, who was playing last game for the Jets.
Delshon Phillips.
Yeah, Phillips. It's not a guy you necessarily want to see often. And I think he did do a decent job, like taking out some blocks and getting in on some tackles. But he got shred up a little bit versus CMC, which who wouldn't, especially for a guy who is a bottom of the depth chart type guy. So to have a guy who can step in and maybe have a little bit more experience and bring it to the linebacker core, I think it's something that's really important for the team right now since they've been decimated by injuries.
Exactly. And we don't want to bring in these guys because that means we're banged up with injuries, but it has to happen. Robert Saleh mentioned in his press conference yesterday that expect us to bring in new faces. And the two guys that are indeed in the building are BJ Goodson and Thomas Morstead. My thoughts of BJ Goodson is he looked really good for the Cleveland Browns last year. His only problem so far in his career has been injuries. And ironically enough, that's been the Jets' problem. So we're going to bring him in. He's 28 years old. He's a guy that's going to probably get a lot of playing time because we gave him a decent contract for a guy that just signed after week one. I think it's a 1 year, $2.1 million contract. So I'm expecting to get a lot of playing time, especially with all the injuries piling up. And then Morstead, like you mentioned, it's the punter. There's not really too much to dive deep into, but I was so impressed with Matt Amendola. My mind, when I saw Amendola go out there to give his first punt, I was expecting the worst. I was expecting a complete shank, and he completely the opposite. He looked better than Braden Mann at times, and that was pretty dope to see. And then we find out some other news that we bring in a former New York Jet for a workout, and Avery Williamson. He is not on the Jets at all. We did not sign him, but according to a source on Twitter, the Jets brought him in for a workout. So, Joe, would you consider bringing Avery Williamson back to the Jets?
Yeah, of course. It obviously depends on what his level of play was with the Steelers. When he was with the Jets, I really, really liked him. And I remember that year being really excited to see him and CJ Mosley next to each other. I thought they could be a top 10 inside linebacker duo. And then obviously, what was that second preseason game against the Falcons? He gets his knee banged up, and he's out for the rest of the year. Comes back last year, plays a couple of games, and then gets traded to the Steelers. He was relatively effective when he was with the Jets. The last time he played with them, I'm just not sure how he kind of fared out with the Steelers. But as long as there's no setback injury wise, would I rather have him or a Noah Dawkins, or even a Hamza at some points in certain points of the game be playing? Yes, at a certain point, I know that we have to kind of take our lumps on defense. I think the Jets' main kind of thing they want to do on defense this year is and we're seeing this especially kind of exemplified with the cornerback group, is to really throw the rookies into the fire, see what they have and what they have to address in 2021 or 2022 offseason. But at a certain point, there's nobody as backups right now. So even if you want Hamza to be taking a lion's share of the reps over Goodson or whoever, Noah Dawkins or whoever it is over Goodson, if you sign Noah Dawkins back, then that's fine. But you need depth because they have only 3-4 healthy guys right now. It's just not enough. So even if they brought back Williamson as well, I'd be completely fine with that. Obviously, assuming that contract would be somewhere around a vet minimum.
Yeah, I'd be on board for Avery Williamson to come back with the Jets. And like you said, I was expecting Avery and CJ Mosley to be very good together. Unfortunately, we never saw that duo take the field together, but it is unfortunate. And like you said, we need to acquire depth. I feel like the Jets are just so banged up right now. They're going to be bringing in a lot of players. They're probably going to have to bring in another safety with LaMarcus Joyner out for the year. Sheldrick Redwine filled in for him, and we all saw what happened with that Robbie Anderson touchdown. So we will see. And there's a lot to get into in the stream, guys. We're just getting started. First off, we're just talking about the news that just happened today. We're about to break down everything about the Jets and Panthers game that just got wrapped up on Sunday. Joe and I were both in attendance in Charlotte. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I see all you guys coming in. What's good, Jets forever? Jack, Scott, Mo, it's Snoopy, Maxwell. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Make sure you like the stream and go down and subscribe to Jets X Factor over on YouTube. They got great Jets content. So let's get into week one, Joe. So first off, this is what all Jets fans want to talk about, and that is our rookie quarterback. So what was your initial reaction to Zach Wilson's debut? Go through your emotions being in the game. Where's your head at halftime? Because I'll tell you where my head was at halftime. I was very worried. So overall, what's your thoughts of Zach Wilson's debut?
Yeah, initially, there was obviously some problems. There was a few missed throws. The one rollout he missed, I think it was Jeff Smith on an over route. He had pressure initially from his right side, avoided whoever it was to his right side, rolled out, misfire to Smith, and I think it was Shaq Thompson who was inside, trying to get coverage
everywhere that game
on Smith, and he missed inside. Almost a pick there. At that point, he's getting knocked around a little bit, so missed that throw. He had the sack fumbles and RPO. I believe off the top of my head it was a buck sweep, and he was reading the backside linebacker. If the backside linebacker pinched down, he was going to throw. There was double slants to the backside. The linebacker creeped in a little bit, but didn't, in my opinion, creep in enough for him to pull that ball for the slant to fit in behind it. And then he double clutches it, he takes the sack fumble and then recovers it. So that was a problem. He was holding the ball a little bit too long. The interception, which was more to me, watching it back, he thought he could fit a ball where he couldn't. He had a little bit of pressure. The pocket was pinching down on him, and he kind of faded away from the throw, so he didn't hit his full base and his full body activated into that throw. And then the ball was just a little bit too low on a spot where he could have fit it. It was a similar route you saw to the touchdown to Croft in the preseason game against the Packers. The stick nod route, or in LaFleur's version of the offense, they call it a squirrel route. He was open for his cover 3. It would have just been a really, really tight throw, and he had to put perfect touch on it. When you're fading in the pocket, it's just not going to be it's obviously not the best decision. So it's not like he didn't see the defender. It's not like he got baited. He just tried to fit it in there. Unfortunately, it didn't. He forced the ball later in the game to Moore. So there were some problems. Undoubtedly, there was problems. But considering the situation, considering he got sacked 6 times, 1 or 2 of those maybe being his fault, 1 or 2 of those maybe he could have thrown the ball away. But he was getting consistently pressured, consistently hit, consistently taken down. We saw that hit the end. I think it was the last sack, Richie, where you had 2 Panthers defenders completely put all their weight on him.
I thought it was over.
Got up. So we figured out he could take hits from NFL defensive linemen, NFL players. That was a big question with him, at BYU. We figured that he can get away from the rush. He can handle that. Another question from BYU. So those are 2 things. And another thing we learned is the kid is tough as nails. Like, for him to not cower down and to be taking shots like he was, shot after shot after shot that game, but then still able to deliver good throws. I think it was the after that last sack that he had, or the 2 guys fell on him. I think 2 plays later was when he hit Corey Davis on that out route in the right side of the end zone. The ball was a little bit inside. It could have been a little bit more like pinpoint accurate. That's a throw where I kind of differentiate between pinpoint and general accuracy. That was a throw that he kind of threw general accuracy that needed to be pinpoint. Could have been a little bit farther outside. But overall, you had that play. You had multiple plays where he was, play action, guy coming free off the edge, dodging pressure, throwing the ball. He looked decisive. He had a quick trigger. He was quick overall with his elusiveness. He would hit his checkdowns quickly. Again, he showed that ability to take hits. The one he climbed up in the pocket, got absolutely drilled from his left side, delivered the ball to Mims on the left sideline. And then the 2 big plays we saw with the 2 big drop balls we saw were with Moore, again, under pressure, steps up, throws a dime. And I think I actually tracked the air distance of that ball. It was almost 60 yards, right around 60 yards. And he put it right in Moore's breadbasket. Now, Moore's shoulder got tapped a little bit. So if his shoulder got hit down and it dragged his arm down a little bit, because obviously they're all connected, and he didn't catch it, it's a little bit more understandable. Still, you want to see him really tack that ball and catch it. And then with Davis, too, he had that ball, again, pressure, rolling out to his right, guys chasing him, eyes down the field the whole time. Sees where the defender is coming from, throws a ball that Davis should adjust to, and Davis failed to adjust to the ball. Could have been a 50-yard gain. So you're looking at a kid who was consistently getting smacked in the face. Could have had maybe another interception or 2, but had a game that could have been 2-3 touchdowns for 300 yards. And even if it wasn't, 2 touchdowns, 250 yards, something like that, 1 pick, for what he was dealing with, I was thrilled. I really was.
Yeah, man, that's a great breakdown, because we both got a first perspective point of view of this game. And that sack that you brought up, like, my perspective of that, I thought he was done. Like, I thought right in my head, I'm like, please get up. Like, he was on the ground for a good 5-6 seconds. And I'm really thinking in my head the worst right there. And for Zach to get up after that from getting absolutely swallowed from 2 interior defensive linemen, I think it was Derek Brown, and then for him to bounce back and throw that beautiful touchdown to Corey Davis, exactly what you said. The big question mark with Zach Wilson was his toughness because of BYU. He wasn't touched. Can he take a big hit? Is he going to be able to do that? And that was really good to see from Zach Wilson, to be able to get the wind knocked out of him, his head smacked against the turf. Hopefully we don't see him take that much hits, because that's really not good for Zach Wilson's development. But he showed a factor of toughness that I feel like Jets fans, we were hopeful to see, but it was a big question mark, because we know that he's not the biggest quarterback, prototypically big, but he's still 6'2". It's not like he's a tiny guy, but he doesn't have those broad shoulders that other quarterbacks have. So it's good to see him be able to take those hits. What I took away from Zach Wilson the most was the ability to adapt on the fly and be able to maneuver the pressure, because the first half, it was his rookie debut. Obviously, this is the first time he's ever seen live NFL defenses. We saw what he did in preseason. It was very good, but we always said, okay, it's against second stringers. He did not get sacked once. He was getting protected. What is it going to be like against a real first string NFL defense? And Zach Wilson experienced it all in the first half. Absolutely zero time to throw. His athleticism, his elusiveness, maneuvering around the pocket was really insane. And his ability at halftime to adjust. And it's not like all of a sudden the second half, the Jets offensive line started to protect Zach. That's not what happened. Zach just really handled the pressure better. That's what I really took away from it the most, because if Zach can really learn from the ability to, the pocket collapsing and knowing where to get the ball out of his hands quicker, like there was definitely some throws that he missed and decisions he shouldn't have made. But what Zach Wilson showed me is we know he has the arm talent, and that was on full display. Like that dime to Elijah Moore that was unfortunately dropped that you said was a 60-yard bomb. I cannot believe that throw was even made. Like he stepped up in the pocket, barely stepped into it, absolutely flicked the wrist 60 yards down the field in the bucket of Elijah Moore. And then that other throw you talked about, rolling to his right, hitting Corey Davis on that route, was like, he just put it over the defender's head, and Corey Davis was right there, a little inch too high, but still, that's the talent that you can see from Zach Wilson. And in the first touchdown of his career, I cannot believe what happened. I saw that play happen. I was seeing if it was a catch. I did not, from my angle at the game, I couldn't tell if Corey Davis dropped it or not. Touchdown. I'm going crazy. I'm wearing my Mekhi Becton jersey, and I have a Panthers fan behind me, tap me on the back. Yo, your boy's down. Like, I'm like, what do you mean? And I'm like so happy about the touchdown. I was like, your boy's on the ground. And I thought he meant Zach Wilson for a second. And I like look back and I'm looking, who is it? And I realize it's Mekhi down. And I'm like, wow. Like I was so hyped up, and then you just killed my mood that quickly. But all in all, Zach Wilson in that second half should give Jets fans a lot of excitement, because his ability to deal with pressure is going to make or break his career in the NFL, because that's what can really separate the great and the good, in my opinion, because we see the Patrick Mahomes of the world. We see what Kyler Murray did week one. Even if you have a great offensive line in front of you, you're going to get pressure at all times. Not at all times, but you need to be able to be elusive and dodge people. And he will look like an athletic guy, elusive, and like you said, play action, got in his face immediately, jukes him out of his shoes. Like there were some times where I want to see him get rid of the ball quicker and not take sacks, but his ability to maneuver around the pocket and that throw to Denzel Mims, that 40-yard bomb, okay, his ability to step up in the pocket, and he took an absolute shot to the ribs and just zipped it on a frozen rope down the field to Denzel. That was one of the most impressive throws of the day, honestly, from Zach Wilson. So we can talk about Zach all stream long, because I feel like he showed the resiliency factor that we need to see from an NFL quarterback. He showed the toughness, and he showed an ability to be poised and calm in his week one debut, even during the rest. And I feel like that's what really separates him from a guy like Sam Darnold, for example. I feel like Sam's issue with the Jets was when there was pressure, he looked rattled. He was happy feet in the pocket. His mind was all over the place. Zach, even though there was pressure in his face, he didn't look like he was a little too concerned. He seemed to be in control, even though he took some sacks, even though he threw the ball, inaccurate at times. It seemed like he was confident in his read. So I'm happy with Zach Wilson's debut. Hopefully he can bounce back and learn from his mistakes, especially with that interception. So now I want to talk about an interesting topic, Joe, that a lot of people are talking about on Jets Twitter, and that's Denzel Mims and this whole situation. So I want to hear your perspective of this. Obviously, we know that Denzel Mims saw the field once. I think he had 2 snaps, and one of those 2 snaps was a 40-yard reception down the field. A lot of Jets fans, including myself, are, Denzel is a fan favorite. We drafted him last year in the second round. We have a lot of high expectations from him. In his rookie season, he starts off the year injured. Adam Gase this, Adam Gase that, Sam Darnold not finding him. And then we have expectations for him going into year 2. He has food poisoning, and then we find out he's not even on the depth chart. Like he's like 6 on the depth chart. So what's your thoughts of Robert Saleh saying that he's not a top 3 receiver and he's basically not a starter right now?
Yeah, that's like, we can get into that rabbit hole for probably the next 40 minutes. But it's, you start like rookie year, okay, injured, no preseason, comes in, one, you start at college, he ran like 5 routes, which is not conducive to him being successful in the NFL, because obviously you're going to run a lot more than 4 or 5 routes. Again, now we start to get into his rookie season. He misses, mini camps and OTAs. He's injured, preseason. He comes in about midway through the year. He plays really well when it's Joe Flacco, and then when Sam Darnold comes in, doesn't play so well. Like you said, because of Darnold dropping his eyes and versus Zach not dropping his eyes, having that poise in the pocket where Sam didn't. And again, kind of get back to that a little bit, like Darnold versus Sam in this situation. If that was Sam Darnold Jets, we get blown out by 30 points. It just happens. So I was really, really happy with Zach. But getting back to Mims, they get into this offseason, gets banged up again, gets the food poisoning, and then we start to see him with the 2s and 3s. And it is concerning to a certain extent, but we all know the talent that Mims has. He was drafted in the 2nd round for a reason. There was definitely some guys who went above him, who I saw more talent or less talent from in college than Mims. Specifically, kill me if you want, but again, this is at the time of the pick. Guys like T. Higgins, guys like Pittman, I thought he had a lot more talent than. And I did that review with Marcus Coleman, played 11 years in the NFL, and he was really impressed with Mims, so it wasn't just me. And for him to now be where he is, there are kind of 2 things. And you hear Davis a couple of weeks ago, I forget exactly how long, maybe it was like 3 weeks ago, where you heard Davis kind of hint toward Mims not necessarily working the hardest in one of his interviews. And then you also hear after the game today or the other day where Saleh comes out and kind of hints towards him not knowing all the positions, and the guys have to know all the positions. So is it a thing where he wasn't working as hard as he possibly could this offseason, and he's not learning every other position on the field? He's not learning, the Y, the still not the Y really, but the Z, the F, the slot, where guys like Jeff Smith are, or guys like even Vincent Smith in the preseason are, where Mims is right now like strictly that X. And I don't think you're going to put him an X over a guy like Davis, because obviously Davis is the more reliable guy at this point. And will be for probably quite a while. Davis obviously balled out in his first game as a Jet, at least in the regular season. So you have a guy who might not be working the hardest, who's been hinted a little bit, and that's maybe why he's not learning the intricacies of the Z and the slot and the F and everything else. So he's falling behind a guy like Davis, but not necessarily, Jeff Smith or Vincent Smith or Keelan Cole just on talent, but it's more mental because they know the positions that he doesn't know. So you have to hope that sounds like the case. It's kind of rough, but again, guy from Baylor has been injured. He has plenty of talent, and listen, and just to get kind of quickly on this too, like, everybody's development track isn't linear. Like, look at Corey Davis in his 2nd year. People, they drafted him number 5 overall in was it 2017? He was a bust. Everybody hated the guy, and now look how happy we are with him. So considering the situation, if he takes a little bit longer to develop and he could be that number 2, I think it still kind of bears out to watch. So I wouldn't jump the gun on Mims yet. Slightly concerning, but he has all the talent in the world. So.
Yeah, I like that comparison with Corey Davis, because you're right. I mean, Corey Davis had the highest expectations, like, coming out of the draft more than we've ever seen. He had one of the greatest college performances from a wide receiver. And my take on Denzel Mims, I think it might be a little like what you mentioned. It might be a little more mental than physical for him. I think he's very physically talented. But if you don't have a grasp of the playbook, you don't know where your spots are, and you don't know where you're going to go with the plays, and the coaching staff can tell that, you're not going to get playing time. And I feel like that's Denzel's – I'm assuming this. I'm not saying this is definitely the problem, but based on what Corey Davis said in his interview and Robert Saleh said in his interview, it seems like it's more of a mental thing with Denzel than his physical talent, because we all see the physical talent that he had at Baylor. He flashed it in preseason this year. He flashed in his rookie season. And we all know that he is a guy that can go out there and make plays. And I feel like his mind is just not caught up, unfortunately, and maybe that is the issue. So now moving on from the Denzel Mims situation, I want to talk about a very interesting part of the game on Sunday that I want to hear your thoughts on, and that's the defense. Would you say that the Jets cornerbacks had a better game than the Jets defensive line? Because the D-line didn't have a terrible game by any means. They did get to Sam. They got 1 sack. They got to him a lot. They just couldn't sack him enough. I feel like we lost this game at the line of scrimmage, ball on both sides of the ball. I was expecting this defensive line to absolutely destroy this Panthers offensive line, if you want to be frankly. And Jets fans going into this season are expecting this secondary, the cornerbacks in particular, to just get worked. They're expecting, because we're so young, we cut Bless Austin. We have Bryce Hall that a lot of Jets fans have high hope for. And then we put in Brendan Eccles, our 6th-round rookie there. And our corners look pretty darn good. Michael Carter II, Javelin Guidry, Eccles, and Hall really held their ground. So what was your thoughts of the Jets' young cornerbacks in their debut this season under Saleh?
Yeah, hitting on the corners first. Relative to expectations, they definitely played better, and you can argue just straight up they played better as well. Eccles, having a majority of the snaps on the outside and playing a lot of snaps, played pretty well. He got beat by DJ Moore a time or two, but again, you're talking about a guy who's a 6th round pick versus DJ Moore, who's one of the better receivers in the NFL. He's not top 10, but he's a legit number 1 receiver, and he held him down pretty well. You're looking at guys like Bryce Hall, who had a pretty good game. I'm only about probably a quarter and a half through it, and he locked up pretty much everybody. The only time I noticed him get beat where he shouldn't have got beat, which was it was by, I think it was a 3rd and 5, and he got beat by Christian McCaffrey. And again, it's Christian McCaffrey. At the same time, with the route that Christian McCaffrey was running, you want to stay square to him and stay over top of the route. He's cheating a little bit outside on an option route. McCaffrey has the option to go inside, outside. So when Hall is sitting so far on the outside in a 3rd and 5, and most likely it's been one of Darnold's primary reads. If anything, cheat a little bit inside. Outside throws are more hard. I'll break that down at a later date. But other than that, he played pretty well. And then Michael Carter played really, really well. One of the plays that stood out was that slot fade. I forget exactly. It was to the blanking on the rookie receiver's name for the Panthers.
Terrence Marshall.
Yeah, Terrence Marshall. He had that really, really good slot fade defense on that, where Marshall's a bigger guy. Marshall's 6'3" versus Michael Carter, who's about 5'10". And he did a really good job staying square, getting hands on, and then playing the ball through the arms of Marshall. So that was a good play by him. And in general, I think he had a tackle for loss. He had a couple of other plays that stood out to me. So they all, a majority of them, played pretty well. And again, with how young they are and with how low our expectations are, I think you need to be ecstatic. Because I think for me and for a lot of Jets fans, if you're being realistic into what the Jets cornerback situation is and what the Jets are right now, if I could tell you that Hall will turn out to be a legit number 2 corner, like legit top, 30 number 2 corner, you probably take that. Obviously, you want your expectations to be higher, but number 2 is number 2. That's still a big big spot. And then if one of those other guys steps up to be the slot corner, that's already good, which I think Carter or Guidry definitely will be. But if then one of those guys can be a spot starter, a spot number 1, spot number 2, or a really good number 4 in the league, which is obviously going 11 personnel heavy, you're going to see plenty of dime looks. If we can sign up for that, I think we'd all take it. And in game 1, we took, I think, massive strides towards at least thinking that. Obviously, there's 16 games left, so we have to see if it levels out a little bit. Maybe they're going to take their lumps. They're going to take their lumps against better quarterbacks. And maybe even some better receivers. But for the first game, the young secondary, at least from the corner perspective, was good. In terms of the other defensive backs, the safeties, Marcus May played pretty well. He had a really good stop on 3rd down, where they were capping the slot receiver. Did a really good job driving down, making a tackle. Other than that, though, from the young DBs, in terms of the safeties, Redwine obviously had a massive blown coverage on Robbie Anderson. I believe it was a cover 6, and he was on the cover 4 side. And he has to match the vertical stem of the number 2. I believe that was the situation. Nonetheless, he had to match the stem of Robbie Anderson. And Robbie Anderson was about 5 to 10 yards away from running full speed, and he didn't open his hips to run with them, was flat-footed, and you're going to get burned every time in that situation. So he had a few busted coverages as well. He had a busted coverage on a flag route to the right sideline when he was in cover 2. He didn't leverage himself properly over the route concept. So he was pretty bad, but let's be realistic. We thought we were going to this year with the top 3 safeties being, Marcus May, Davis, and then obviously Joyner. So for Redwine, who was just signed 7, 8 days ago, whatever it was, for him to step up in that situation, we didn't expect much. But from May, he looked good, and kind of going back to the corners, the young corners, that was the good part. But let's not act like we had any expectations for Redwine. So.
Exactly, man. I feel like Jets fans should be so happy with how these corners debuted in their first go-around under head coach Robert Saleh, because we know the expectations are low, and they absolutely exceeded them in week 1. We will see what happens. I just want to get to a quick donation from Bang. We need offensive line signing, guys. Zach must be protected. Yes, Bang, that is indeed the case right now. Offensive line needs help. Luckily, I'm comfortable with Morgan Moses sliding in at right tackle and Fant going to left tackle for now. Hopefully, Becton will be back and ready to go at least by the bye week. I appreciate the donation, Bang. Means a lot. And then shout out to Ryan, Jets Talk 24/7. Yo, Joe and Richie. Shout out to Jets Talk 24/7. Ryan is the man. I know that, Joe, you're always on his channel as well, so you know Ryan pretty well yourself.
He's all right.
So shout out to everybody in the chat. Before we go into further Jets Talk, we're just going to take a quick ad break and hear a word from our sponsor of the stream, BetQL. Want to take an advantage over your sportsbook? You need to download BetQL, the only app you'll need to make smart bets. Their bets computer model scans over 350,000 unique bets per year to give you a best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports and gives you the reasoning behind why you should place the bet. Their model covers everything from spreads, over-unders, and player prop bets. Don't want to use the model and prefer to do the research yourself? BetQL has all the necessary tools for your betting research needs. Everything from sharp data, line movement, team summaries, lineup and injury breaking news, and even leaderboards to track your success. Head to the App Store or Google Play Store now to download BetQL. You can also head to try.betql.com/JetsMedia to get started now. Enter the discount code JetsMedia at payment checkout for 25% off of their subscription offerings. You can find all this information in the description of this video. Make sure to check out their BetMGM offer in the description in order to receive a free year of BetQL. Also, make sure you check out the Sportsbook offers page if you live in one of the eligible states to claim free offers upon signing up at one of the many sportsbooks listed. Don't miss out on your chance to beat the sportsbook this football season. Once again, shout out to BetQL for sponsoring this stream. You guys can use my code down below in the description to get 25% off. Now, Joe, let's get into some negative stuff. Unfortunately, we have to. Jets fans, don't hurt me. You guys know I'm a very optimistic Jets fan, but we got to talk about this offensive line, man. This offensive line really disappointed us. Mekhi Becton going down is not going to help, even though Mekhi did not look good in his own right in his debut as a sophomore. So, Joe, I want to hear your thoughts. We know we got George Fant going at left tackle now. Elijah Vera Tucker had his rookie debut. Morgan Moses is going to be the right tackle. And we started off the game, as everybody know, with George Fant winning the right tackle spot. We know that was a huge question mark going in. Saleh did not tell us who's the right tackle. We don't know. Ended up being George Fant. So what do the Jets need to do to adjust to, the Patriots front, or even just throughout the rest of the season to, hone in their chemistry? Like, what was the issue week one with this offensive line? Because I feel like Jets fans, we didn't expect this O-line to be dominant. We didn't expect them to be, the best right now, but we didn't expect it to be this bad. So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, and it's concerning. We're talking about before Zach Wilson being able to take hits, but if he's taking hits like he did week one, he's not going to make it till week 5. He can't take that many hits going throughout the season. There's not a quarterback in the NFL who could. So it's definitely concerning for that super chat you had before. Like, I'm concerned about the depth of the offensive line at this point as well, because now that you've had initially we had guys like Moses or Fant as a backup. We had a guy who's not a great starter, but you had Alex Lewis. You had Cam Clark, who thought take steps in the right direction in year 2. All those guys are either gone or now stepping up into pretty much a starter role. We're now only your primary backup is like Dan Feeney and Chuma Doga, if he's even healthy, which is obviously a large concern at this point. So to bring back another guy, I think that might be a good idea for them. And in terms of the starters, they were put in a tough spot. LaFleur was, and Zach Wilson were, because this Jets the entire offseason we heard about them really addressing the offensive line and taking steps in the right direction. I think they will. Then they will round out. One of the things you hear a lot about the offensive line is you need that continuity. So when it's a new offensive line, they're going to take some lumps. And from what I watch and what I've watched so far in the film, it was more about passing stunts off, recognition of blitzes that they were just lacking on. And that comes from continuity. How long does GVR carry to the center before he likes to kick off or drop his post and take the looper? There's a natural feel you have to have for stunts and things like that. And with the Patriots coming next week, Bill Belichick versus rookie quarterbacks, and with them, you saw what they did to Sam Darnold a couple years ago. They'd like to load up the line, really confuse your calls as an offensive line, where you're sliding to, if you're taking man protection, if you're taking combo protection between a slide and a bob, a bigs on bigs or back on back protection. And he likes to confuse that with tag rushes, where to be simplistic, like you have 2 linebackers lined up in the A gap. You have both of them take a step or 2 forward. Whatever one the center takes, they drop back into coverage, and the other one blitzes. So they really screw with offensive linemen and young quarterbacks in those type of ways. just never making you right. So if they're going to have problems with the Panthers, who in their own right do have some good rushers with Reddick and with Burns and do a lot of coverage rotations and are really athletic, it's going to be an issue. So it's going. We're gonna have a couple of more lumps, the next couple of weeks. I think they will round out into being a slightly below average group, but it's all about continuity. Like, listen, Becton, he got beat a couple of times. I think he looked pretty solid in the run game. And AVT, he got beat a couple of times in the pass game. The run game, so far, what I've watched, I'll be pretty encouraged with the run game with AVT. Obviously, people are going to take a lot more note of what guys do in the pass game, so the run game's not really going to stand out unless you have that big pancake block. But in terms of getting that positional leverage that he needs for positional versus physical leverage, that's a whole different conversation. But he did a good job basically getting in the way of his assignments. That was good. Govern got beat up. He's starting to get a little bit concerning because 2019 Broncos, he looked really, really good last year. He struggled towards the end of the year. He took steps in the right direction. Started off this game not passing off stunts, not doing a good job in that pass game. And for a veteran center, you'd expect him to be a little bit more in tune with blitzes and how to pass off stunts and things like that. And so he's been really, really up and down for a guy who we thought was going to be, probably a top 10 to 15 center-ish when the Jets signed him. GVR is what he is, at this point. He's going to get beat. He's a bottom tier starter. And then when Fant was in there, he was concerning as well. He got beat probably more than anybody in the pass game when he was in that right tackle. I've yet to see what he does at left tackle. I'm not at that point in the game yet, but his problem is, and specifically versus the Panthers, I don't know if they saw this on film or they just naturally reacted to it. One of Fant's biggest problems is he consistently 45-degree sets. Which you just have vertical jump sets, 45-degree sets. 45-degree sets are more of an aggressive set. You're kicking to the outside. You're taking that 45-degree angle outside. And what the specifically the Panthers rushers are able to do is because they're so athletic, they take a step or two up the arc outside of Fant, and because they're so athletic, they get Fant kind of really getting heavy into that kick side because they're so athletic. His momentum is really carrying himself outside, and they just cross his face consistently. So he was taking too wide of pass sets, and that was something he did too much of last year. Like, you can 45-degree set, you can vertical set, you can jump set. It depends a lot on the situation. But if you consistently do the same thing, you're going to get smacked because guys study that, and you could beat a certain set no matter if you're able to anticipate it. So that happened with him, undoubtedly, in my opinion, either natural reaction or just film study. They knew he 45-degree set, and they had the exact kind of answer for it. So people struggled individually, but I think for a lot of the pressure and a lot of the hits that Zach saw, it was a lot of just blown assignments, blown protections, not being able to pass off stunts and twist and things like that you already mentioned. So I think it will round out with continuity. And then I think a guy like ABT as well, who's a big piece of this offensive line. Listen, we'd all said we were pretty comfortable with him not getting preseason reps, or we try to be positive, but there's a reason he should take some preseason reps. It's different playing at USC versus Derek Brown and Hassan Reddick and all these guys. So I think time for the young guys and then continuity with the line in general, we will not be as bad, but I think you'd be maybe focusing a little bit, you're a glass half full guy for saying it's not concerning at all because Zach got absolutely smashed. So.
Oh, it's definitely concerning. And I'm the most optimistic Jets fan I feel like there is. And it's really unfortunate. And I feel like the biggest part about this offensive line that's interesting is obviously the biggest concern is protecting Zach Wilson. Mm-hmm. But the flip side of it, we did not do good in the run game at all up front as well. And this offense is all about establishing a run game first. And we knew that going in, that this system will not succeed without a run game because it sets up the play action. And what do you need to do in order to give your rookie quarterback, a breather, or don't put all the stress on his shoulders? You give him a run game. And that's exactly the opposite of what we did against the Panthers. We just gave the ball to Tevin Coleman up the middle, 1-yard gain. We gave the ball to Ty Johnson, nowhere to go. Michael Carter, same exact thing. I feel like we had 2 10-yard runs, one from Coleman, one from Ty Johnson, if I'm not mistaken. And that's concerning, man, because We all know the scheme is all about that, outside zone run and all this stuff. And we thought it would be creative and stuff. And listen, it is week one. We're going to be overreacting over the positives. We're going to be overreacting over the negatives. That's just a natural part about the NFL. But if we cannot get this offensive line going in the right direction in the run game, I'm not even talking about pass protection all right now. That's its own animal. But Mekhi Becton we know is a better run blocker than a pass blocker as a left tackle. Now he's gone for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Hopefully he can get back healthy because he's a big part to this offensive line for the future. So what do you think this Jets offensive line needs to do in terms of run blocking? Because I feel like I said, Joe, without the run game, this offense is going to not be as efficient as we thought. Because if you can get those 4-yard, 5-yard rushes on first down, that's only going to help Zach Wilson the best. Because this system is all about. We saw what the San Francisco 49ers have been doing for the past couple of years with Shanahan. We see everybody that this offense is implemented all around the league, and they all have a ground and pound offense that sets up the play action. So what do you think the Jets need to do in order to really just establish a run game? Is it the running backs, or is it the offensive line? Is it the play calling? What do you think it is?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. To be fair, like a lot of people talk about the Jets running backs, and they're not the most talented group out there. Let's be honest. There are some groups with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, out there. I like some of the backs they have. I like what Carter could be. Obviously, he's going to struggle some as a rookie with reads and things like that. I like Ty Johnson's potential, but to act like we have a group of running backs that's really going to hit every hole and read every run perfectly, it's just not the case. Tevin Coleman specifically, like I like him as like a third down back, receiving back type of option. But when I watched what he did in 2019, 2020, wasn't overly impressed with how he runs the ball. You have a lot of patience in zone. I don't think he has the best patience. To me specifically, he overstrides a lot. And in zone, you have to be able to cut back. You have to be able to, or bend the run back. You have to be able to bounce it outside. And he's really an overstrider, where if you're overstriding, it's going to be really hard for you to drop your weight, cut on a dime. So he tends to run into the back of, guys a lot. And he wasn't hitting the holes as he should have. I think he got stuffed on the 4th and 1 where I thought he could have just bounced the run outside. I think it was on a power duo or a strong duo. I forget exactly what the run was, but his vision's not the best. So you have young backs who don't have a lot of carries, and then the vets you do have in Coleman. I'm not enthused with the running back room, so you really need to be able to open up holes for those guys to make them successful. And in week 1, they didn't do that. Now, part of the problem is the Panthers definitely did stack the box versus the Jets offensive line. And they just filled their gaps really, really well. So I think the Panthers played it really well in terms of the run game and stacking the box, and where a lot of those linebackers, would or could drop back into coverage. But if the ball was to be handed off, they were really able to react quickly, because the linebacking core specifically of the Panthers is uber athletic. So it was a tough matchup, and quick penetration is a really tough matchup for, I know, a lot of running schemes, but specifically zone plays. It can really destroy the read system of how it works from the 1 to 2 to the 3, depending on leverage, things like that the running back is reading. So they had a good answer. The Jets running backs didn't do the best job hitting their gaps, pressing the outside, pressing the inside, bending or bouncing the run wherever it needed to go. So you hope they can work it out. Exactly how, I'm not 100% sure. But if they don't, again, how many times do we see Zach Wilson, his first game of his NFL career, we thought it would be a different situation where you'd see Zach Wilson in 2nd and 5s, 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 2s, not these 3rd and long, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 15 plays that he had to overcome consistently in this Panthers game. So it's something that's super necessary for a rookie quarterback. So they have to figure it out soon. And a part of that does come with one, experience in the system. Outside zone is not necessarily the easiest thing to run. It takes cohesion. It takes experience. So I think over time, again, just like with the pass game, they will learn the system better and learn how to play better with each other. When to hand track, when they could ricochet block, their angles to the second level. There's a lot that goes into an outside zone system. And in their first game, all together as a unit, they didn't play the best. But I think with someone more experienced, again, just like the passing game, it will round out. Will it be what we expected? I don't know. But again, it's overreaction Tuesday now. But we'll bounce back, or they'll bounce back.
Yeah, and that's another thing that Jets fans have to realize, that this team, not only players and personnel, but the coaching staff is extremely young. We have a rookie head coach, a rookie offensive play caller, and it's going to take some time for us to really see the full potential. And like you said, Joe, continuity matters, experience in the system matters. And this was their first time ever being a head coach, Robert Saleh. First time offensive coordinator, Mike LaFleur. We all saw the debuts. Everybody had debuts in the system. So be patient. I know you don't want to hear that word patience, because the Jets have been out of the playoffs for a decade plus, and we don't want to hear that anymore. But that's unfortunately the reality of where we're at right now. And I feel like Jets fans do understand the reality, but at the same time, we want to see results now. But we will see what happens. So let's flip the page on last week, Joe, and let's preview next week. And that is us going up against a familiar friend in Bill Belichick and our division rival. So this game is going to be really interesting. Both of us are 0-1 going into it. This is Robert Saleh's first opportunity to see what he can do against a division opponent. It's rookie quarterback versus rookie quarterback. Mac Jones is being hyped up and looked like an absolute star in week 1, apparently, according to the NFL media. And he won rookie of the week. And he had, 280 yards and a touchdown and a loss. So what do you think the Jets need to do schematically, or just defensively, offensively, whether it's Zach Wilson? What do you think the X factors, no pun intended, are to get this W against the Patriots at home?
Yeah, I am definitely concerned with the offensive line, because again, looking at the game plan that the Panthers had, just in terms of loading the box and kind of sending some creeper blitzes and things like that, or tag rushes, like I said, that the Pats do. They have to figure out like that. It's almost so simple, or it's not really simple. It's a really simple statement, but they have to figure out their communication, the offensive line, who to pick up, who the hot is, where to dump the ball off, because if they're going to struggle with the pressures that the Panthers sent, again, Bill Belichick, one of the most accomplished coaches of all time, who is famous for doing that stuff, is going to do even better than the Panthers do it. So they have to be able to adjust quickly. They have to look at what they messed up and address it ASAP. So that's one thing. And then 2, with the defensive line too, they got shredded a little bit in the run game and in the pass game too. A lot of what they did was they just gassed the Jets defensive line out, because how many of Sam Darnold's dropbacks was 1, 2, 3 hitch, throw the ball, 1, 2, 3 hitch, throw the ball, and that gasses out a penetrating front. And then also with the defensive line, what they did, which I think they needed to address this week, maybe they run some more combo fronts where you have some guys two-gapping, you have Fadokasi two-gapping in the middle, because what the Panthers did was a lot of their runs were traps and gap schemes, and a trap scheme is specifically meant to really kind of negate the aggressiveness of a 4-3 front, because you're expecting penetration. Your offensive lineman, okay, you have let's just say it's a guard versus a 2 tech. He steps to the side, works up to the second level, and then you have, let's say, a tackle or a guard from the other side, pull and hit him from the side, where he's pushing too far up the field, and now he can't get back to the running back's lane because they're expecting that quick penetration. So I think the Jets are going to have to run some more combo fronts where you have some guys two-gapping to kind of negate the effectiveness of the trap runs and some of the counters and powers that the Panthers are running, because the Patriots are undoubtedly going to see that on film, and then they're going to run a lot more traps. And they're already a team who runs a lot more gap, trap, power, counter, G lead, that type of stuff. And again, that could really hurt a penetrating front. So I think that'll be a nice adjustment to see if Ulbrich does adjust in that way. You have to hope the rookie corners can hold up. And the Jets actually blitzed a little bit more than at least initial watch, and not necessarily tracking every single play in terms of like charting it. They blitzed a little bit more than I expected. But I think that in this game, you want to make Mac Jones beat you. There was a decent amount of incidences where the Jets were playing off coverage while sending blitzes, and you had some easy completions to McCaffrey underneath. Now I want to see more press coverage and make Mac Jones beat you instead of the James Whites of the world. The Hunter Henrys, the Jonnu Smiths. Make him throw some deep shots. Pinch that pocket, because he's not a guy who would necessarily escape the pocket. So I want to see more press coverage, and I want to see more combo fronts. And then on offense, again, it's the running game. and how to fix that. That's a loaded question. That I'm not even sure the Jets coaching staff knows that answer right now, but we'll see if it's answered. It's just something that needs to be if they expect to win a game versus one of the better coaches of all time. So.
Yeah, it's scary. And I feel like the biggest concern for me going into this game is the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Are we going to be able to stop the run game? I feel like that the Jets did a pretty good job containing Christian McCaffrey. You know, he's like a generational talent at that running back position, and they did as best as they could, I feel like, in that front. But they didn't get to Sam as much as I would hope. And the Panthers' offensive line is way worse than the Patriots' offensive line. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Robert Saleh and Ulbrich comes up with schematically, how they can confuse a rookie quarterback. Because listen, we have a rookie quarterback, but we can't forget the Patriots have a rookie quarterback. So we have to really take advantage of that. The Jets should send a lot of pressure. They should get to his head. And like you said, force Mac Jones to beat us. And we know that football is win or loss at the line of scrimmage. And I feel like the Jets lost that game against the Panthers. And I feel like the Patriots defensive front, this scares me. Bill Belichick loves rookie quarterbacks. We all know it. He knows what to do. They know how to really just confuse the rookie's mind. They confuse the looks. They like show a stunt where they know that the quarterback's going to expect this, and they do the opposite. Like they just feel like it just feels like Bill Belichick is a mastermind, and we know that he's the greatest coach of all time. We've hated him for I don't even know a century. It feels like so. This is going to be a really big test for not only the Jets players, but the coaching staff, because how is Robert Saleh going to do this? Because there's no way Saleh's going to outcoach Belichick. I feel like that's going to be, a stretch to even say. So what do you think the X factors are for this? Like, what do they need to do? Obviously we need the run game, but I'll change the question. Give me 3 players on the Jets that need to have really good games in order to win this game. 3 players, it could be on any phase of the ball, on the top of your mind, Joe, that we need to step up big time in order to win a divisional game at home.
Yeah, and like you said, like with Belichick, it's a lot of coverage rotations. It's a lot of robber coverages. The two cuts out, the one cuts in, the safety and the cornerback assignment change. Now that safety drops down, picks the ball off, or if it's not that, again, it's a lot of those tag rushes where you've got a lot of guys pressing on the line of scrimmage, and then whoever's not picked up, they drop into coverage. They peel into coverage late, so the quarterback sees pressure. Okay, the number 2 from the slot's been hot, and he's open because everybody's pressing. But you have linebackers who again who are peeling off late, who you don't necessarily see in your initial hallway in your initial vision, and they pick the ball off. So there's a lot of again peeling off.
And that's where Sam saw ghosts.
So exactly, that's exactly what they were doing. So running game, obviously. Now in terms of the 3 guys, and maybe if obviously Zach Wilson's one of them. That goes without saying. I feel like that's almost a comp out like number 1 of the 3. But you want to see him play like he did last game because undoubtedly he's going to see pressure from the Jets week 1 to week 2. They're not going to be able to pick up stunts and twist and tag rushes and all these things I was talking about so cleanly where he's not going to have to face pressure. So you hope he continues to play like he did. You hope that he connects on a few more passes that he didn't, whether it be, just either being a little bit too confident in his arm. Sometimes, again, kind of ripping the ball down a little bit, missing Jeff Smith like he did. But overall, play like he did last game, have that confidence, have that poise in the pocket, have the ability to manipulate a murky pocket, keeping his eyes downfield, etc. So you want to see him do exactly what he did the last game, clean it up even a little bit in certain incidences. You want to see Corey Davis again step up. Like I feel like these guys are relatively obvious, or the receivers in general. But Stephon Gilmore being out is huge for the Jets. You already had J.C. Jackson. So let's not even say Davis. Let's say it's Moore, or if Crowder's back, one of the other receivers minus Davis going to step up because J.C. Jackson is a good corner. But you don't want Davis to be the only guy. You want Zach Wilson to have more than one guy he could go to, because last game, again, we're going into the season thinking, okay, you have Cole, you have Crowder, you have all these guys, they're all injured, and now you're running a ton of routes with guys, and no offense to these guys, but Tyler Crofts and Ryan Griffin. So like another offensive weapon has to step up. So one of the receivers, whether it be Moore, Crowder, Cole, Mims, have to take a bigger role. That's another one. of the X factors, and another guy I'm going to go for. I'm hoping that's more, by the way. Again, people are kind of crushing him. He actually ran a couple of really good routes. The two drops, again, rookie jitters. People are like out on more now. Like, oh, you should have drafted another receiver. We're all like ecstatic about the guy. The all offseason.
Yeah.
He dropped 2 balls. Now everybody hates him, which is again overreaction, like you said. But I'm banking on more. And then in terms of another guy, there's gonna be a lot of pressure on the linebackers. And with those 2 tight end sets, I think it's going to be Hamza. Is me a guy who I need to step up. I think the rookie corners, you hope that they continue to step up as they did. You hope Marcus May plays as he did. Obviously one of the rookie or one of the younger safeties, but there's going to be a lot of emphasis on the linebackers because of those tight ends. So you'd assume that in some plays, and there's actually a decent amount of man coverage in this game, cover 2 as well. There was some 6, there was some 4. There was a good mixture, but you'd assume that the linebackers, whether it be in zone, like zone match or man principles, they're going to be primarily responsible for those tight ends. And what do we hear consistently? Tight ends are a rookie's best friend. And he's going to look, I'm assuming, to check down or, seam routes, whatever it may be, to the Hunter Henrys and Jonnu Smiths of the world, because those are the most talented guys. Or even a James White. A lot of their talent comes from the middle, which obviously puts a big emphasis on the linebackers. So I'm going to say Hamza because I'm assuming that CJ Mosley will step up. He's obviously one of the better linebackers that we have. So it's kind of already assumed he'll be able to take one of those guys and play them relatively well. But Hamza needs to play well too. And that was a big problem with last game. A lot of these trap runs, because the defensive front is penetrating so hard. A lot of those linemen get to the second level quickly. And that puts a lot of emphasis on the linebackers to shoot gaps quickly. And guys like Sherwood, who's now injured, or Hamza, they're used to coming back from deeper more and having more time to process what's going on and having to make those tackles on the second and a half, kind of third level. Where in that first level in that box, you really have to diagnose quicker. So I want to see a guy in Hamza diagnose runs quicker to be involved in some of those trap runs. Last game he didn't do it as cleanly as you want him to, but again he's transitioning different positions. And then also with that comes the man coverage and the initial coverage, or even zone coverage he's going to have on the Hunter Henrys and Jonnu Smith. So Zach Wilson, another receiver minus Davis, and then I'm going to go with Hamza.
Yeah, that's a great breakdown. I feel like, on defense, if you can pick one position group, I feel like the linebacker is definitely it, because of the 2 tight end set that the Patriots are going to be running with Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. Definitely concerns me. It's the battle of the rookie quarterbacks, and it's a division game home opener. Joe and I will be at MetLife. I'm assuming a lot of you guys in the chat will be at MetLife as well. It's going to be rowdy. I want the energy to be out of this world. I don't care that we're 0-1. You never know what could happen. And by the way, we're second in the AFC East right now, because we lost to an NFC opponent. So if we beat the Patriots and the Bills and Dolphins are versing each other, and so we can be in second place if we get this dub, guys. Believe. You never know what could happen. Stay tuned for more Jets content on the stream, guys. That is it for today's stream. I appreciate Joe for tuning in. This was a great time. This is definitely not the last time you be on the stream, because I want to dive deep into the film room next time, Joe, because you are, I've been watching you for years. You know your stuff like better than anybody else I've ever witnessed. So thank you so much for joining in the stream, guys. Make sure you guys check out Jets X Factor down below in the description. They do great stuff. The best Jets content out there for sure. Joe, is there anything else you would like to say before we end the stream to Jets fans, or what you got going on over on Jets X Factor?
Yeah, just JarB31 on Twitter. Follow again. Just type in Jets X Factor for the YouTube. Once you do that, the content will hopefully speak for itself, and you'll subscribe or do whatever. And then, like you said, with the game, I definitely want to see a crazy atmosphere. I'm not sure what the most crazy game you've been to personally, Richie, but I want to see that 2009 home opener Rex Ryan type atmosphere.
Oh yeah.
Again, support the players. A lot of the recent years, you see a lot of people on their phones on third down, not standing up, not clapping, and people don't really understand how much of an advantage that is, especially for a rookie going into a rookie quarterback, for him to not be able to hear his checks, not be able to hear into his earpiece from the sideline. It could really, really screw up the offense. So that's the only thing I ask is, if you go to the stadium, just put your phone on silent, put it in your pocket.
Lose your voice.
Please. Yeah, again, I'm still recovering from an away game 3 days ago. So lose your voice, get wild, and if you can't speak, clap your hands. Just make a ton of noise. I want to make this one of the better environments in the NFL, or get it back to one of the better environments in the NFL, because I don't think it's been that the last couple of years. So I beg that it can become that again.
Yeah, and Jets fans have, the entire NFL has not been able to go to any games for a full year. So I feel like it's going to have that vibe, and I'm excited for it. Guys, if you're going to be at the game, let me know. I'd love to meet you guys. The tailgate's going to be crazy. Everyone's going to be going wild. And like what Joe said, Monday, no one should have a voice. Okay, I'm going to go live on Monday, and I'm probably not going to have a voice. So we'll see how that works out. Joe, it's a pleasure to have you on the stream. I cannot wait to have you on once again. Make sure you guys check out Joe down below in the description. His Twitter and Jets X Factor is down below. So make sure you guys go subscribe. That does it for this stream, and we'll catch you guys next time. Let's go Jets, baby. Come on. Let's get